disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So, while the United States is doing suicide runs to continue on its war economy and holding it by gum bands and, plastic, paper cups and Band-Aids and duct tape as much as they're trying to hold it together, China and Russia are being the peacekeepers. China and Russia are actually doing the work that even here in Canada I thought we were supposed to do. We were supposed to be the peacekeeping nation, and we're not even holding up to our standards. We're falling into the traps of the United States and NATO countries by aligning ourselves with more militarism and expanding ourselves so far that we're spreading ourselves way too thin. And the world is finally paying attention to this. So, you've seen these articles before, but I want to show it again, of just what China has done on the world stage when it comes to foreign affairs. So China walks a tightrope searching for a Ukraine peace deal that doesn't hurt its ally with Russia. That's what China is doing right now. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we're continuing to send millions upon billions of dollars to slaughter one another, and China's walking in to say, hey, let's find diplomacy so that no one gets hurt. Seems kind of fair, seems kind of balanced, right? But that's not what we do. We're, destroyers. We're enablists. We're the world's, mafia, the police state. We're the ones that, build a economic presence over death and disparity and continuous war. Here's what NPR is saying. Truce between Iran and Saudi Arabia, brokered by China, raises concerns for the United States. Again, because we're in the West, we have an entire death economy. So, yes, it's raising concerns that countries are actually making peace deals and doing diplomacy that hurts our reputation as the world's mafia. And that's scaring the bejesus out of people, including a lot of senators and congresspeople at the White House. So, Aaron Mate points this out, saying Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen decries the fact that China is trying to broker troubling agreements to reestablish diplomatic ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia, broker peace deals between Ukraine and Russia. Peace is troubling. So they had this meeting, they had this gathering of people to discuss the nefarious act of peace, because having people in a civilized society is ruining their business. So how do we get people uncivilized? How do we stop peace from breaking out? That is the new virus that they're concerned about. And this is what they had to say.
Rapidly increased its engagement around the world. It includes brokering, actually trying to broker troubling agreements between, to reestablish diplomatic ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia, offering to broker peace deals between Ukraine and the Russian aggressors. So these incidents, they highlight China's persistent presence and intention to exert its influence and match the U.S. as a global power.
Which is why I had to stop baking cookies and take off my apron to rush all the way down here to tell you how bad peace is. Why is China meddling in with us segregating the world? Why is China meddling in our safe realm of war and depression? Why are they trying to mess up our business? What is their angle? It's so hilarious coming from this lady who clearly looks like a middle school librarian. And I know I shouldn't be making fun of appearances, but come on. That reminds you of like a teacher you once had, or a librarian, or you've seen that you've seen that person before in your life.
So how can the U.S. address China's increasing involvement in global diplomatic matters? And can we expect to see more countries try to turn to China as a mediator? And what do you think the implications of this pivot would mean to us?
Thank you, Senator. It's a very thoughtful question.
China has rapidly...
It's a very, very thoughtful question. What are we going to do when peace breaks out? What are we going to do if China goes into more territories and actually talks to people? What are they going to do when they actually do foreign affairs, diplomatically, and actually unite countries together and actually have diplomatic solutions so we can actually get along and get and make society grow and better for one of us? How's that going to affect us? I'm feeling claustrophobic right now. Oh my God. I need to straddle a bomb right now. Help me. I need to go to a panic room. I need to go to Lockheed Martin and just breathe this out. Yes, the troubling, pragmatic things that neocons have to deal with. As opposed to us regular people that are trying to put, food on the table, shelter, the basics of survival. Trying to deal with the cost of living when it's being inflated to mass levels. That's nothing compared to the neocons worried about when peace breaks out. Oh my God! What's going to happen when people are civilized? It's going to be like Woodstock. People are just going to gather together and listen to music, and they're just going to be happy. We can't have that. I don't know why this is hilarious. I don't know why this is so hilarious that they're panicking over the idea that China is making peace talks. And I'm sure our government here in Canada is doing the exact same thing that they're doing in the United States. They're worried that China is making peace talks. As coming from a peacekeeping nation, they're worried that China is being the peacekeepers. Because, again, we live in a world where our economy is artificially inflated by us killing one another by the military-industrial complex. We have a death machine. We have a death, economy. That's why we continue on this hatred and bigotry and racism and epitomizing people to one another. Because the more we kill, the more bang for their buck, and somehow it's going to invest into the economy because of trickle-down economics as proven to fail every single time, but they still want to do it, so hey. And that's why that's why they had this panic meeting. Oh my God, peace is breaking out. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So then that goes into this, and I want to show this. So when Trump was on CNN and did the town hall, one of the questions asked was his take on the Ukraine war. And they it's funny because they thought that Trump was going to do all this, that Trump was going to, push away their allies, that other countries were going to exile away from the United States and go towards other countries. Like, they thought Trump was going to do this, but this is under President Biden. President Biden's leading us to nuclear war. President Biden is destroying our relationship with our allies. Like, that's under Democratic. That's under the Democrats and the rest of the establishment that's doing that. Not Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump said this about the Ukraine war. Take a listen.
Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people.
Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying.
I gotta say, and I made this disclaimer, and I'll continue to say this disclaimer, I am no fan of President Trump. I am no fan of Donald Trump whatsoever. I didn't even like him when he was on The Apprentice. Everyone knows that. I have said that multiple times. I gotta give props to this, because this is the most refreshing thing I've ever heard any presidential person, or anyone in politics for that matter, say about this. That this is not about winning or losing. I just want people to stop dying. And this is what anti-war activists, true anti-war activists, not the ones that have, said about stopping the Iraq war and then decide, okay, Ukraine, we got to go with it. I'm talking about the true, actual people that don't want war to begin with. I've been saying for decades. But this is not about winning or losing, because there's no winners. There's no winners when it comes to war. And as Julian Assange, as he's locked away in captivity, has reminded us through his reports and through his investigative journalism and through his publications and through WikiLeaks, he reminds us that the whole point of these wars is the continuation of war. It's not for winning or losing. It's to continue this on so that we massacre more people for business. And Donald Trump, a businessman, is making the statement that he does not want a winnable war. He doesn't care. He wants this war to stop, period. He wants the killing to stop. He wants this to go away. He doesn't want the war to begin with. And that is amazing, because that's the thing that they said Donald Trump was going to start. Donald Trump was going to start World War III. That's what everyone kept saying about this. But now it's happening under President Biden. And Donald Trump is on stage on CNN when CNN's asking, well, do you want Ukraine to win this war? Because CNN's full of NeoCons and full of war propaganders. Same with ABC. They did a whole friggin' special about the possibility of going to war with China. ABC did. And Donald Trump's on stage, and he's the only person I've heard so far saying that he wants this to stop, period. Cold. Just walk away. End this now. We can end this now. But here's what ABC, after hearing this is what they had to say about this.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people.
Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying.
I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, he's your Republican frontrunner right now.
That is freaking hilarious. That shows that it's a NeoCons media world. After they showed the clip, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, what do you make of this? Like, how do you feel about this? Like, oh my God, we can't just stop a war that we created. Are you nuts? Are you crazy? That's impossible. We can't just end a war that we manufactured. We got to continue on fighting this monster that we created. It's like Frankenstein, right? We create the terror so we can fight the terror. That's the whole point of the war on terror, right? We can't just stop wars. That'd be too China-like. That'd be too much of a Russian scapegoat thing. That's evil. That's communism. That's social. That's some sort of buzzword that we can make up and scare people into war again. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Let's play that again. Let's play that again. So, Trump's saying that we need to stop this cold, that we got to stop, people from dying, and then ABC comes back.
I want everybody to stop dying.
I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, he's your Republican frontrunner right now.
I mean,
even the tone they say this, like, what do you make of this? What do you make of this? Like, this is scary for me. I feel like my advertisers are going to go away, and I'll be like Tucker Carlson. I may have to, actually do journalism. I might have to actually get respect from my viewers.
like, what do you say at, an expression of concern for human life? Isn't that weird? Like, how do you deal with that? This is a crisis that this front runner in your party wants people to stop dying. And not be cheering for a continued proxy war. That's
so. This is from Useful Idiots, Aaron Mate and Katie Helper podcast. Because I couldn't find the original clip for this. So, but I love Aaron Mate's, adding on to that, how are you not cheerleading for a proxy? How can you? What do you make of that? How do you make of, caring for human life? What is empathy? How do you feel about someone who's the front runner of a party that actually feels a bit empathetic towards human life? What do you make of that? Like, it's such a conundrum for ABC and CNN. Such a conundrum that we could just end wars and actually have peace and, live normally. Maybe John Lennon was saying something when we should be giving peace a chance.
That's basically the question from Jonathan Carl here, and Michael McCall is going to struggle with his answer.
I will say this. I think what he is thinking is that this counteroffensive, which is happening soon, will be so successful that we can have a ceasefire and maybe get to a negotiating phase. Do I want Ukraine to win? Of course. And a victory in Ukraine is also a victory against Chinese Communist Party in Taiwan. I just came back from the...
Yeah, there it is. So again, this is not about Ukraine winning. This is about showing who's boss to China, which has nothing to do with any of this. And when they say they want Ukraine to win, what they're really saying is we're cheering on Ukraine's destruction, because on top of all the loss of life so far, they want to escalate even more so that more people even die, rather than trying to negotiate now to end the war.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the reason we're doing this, is because the United States needs to assert its dominance. That's all this really is. The continuation, even though people know that this Ukraine war is a fabricated hoax, that it was all manufactured, that there's no winnable solution out of this. Ukraine is not going to be victorious. We already know about all this. But the reason that they continue this on is to assert their aggression against China, but to also show the rest of the world that even with Joe Biden, the man who can barely pronounce a freaking sentence and barely walk off stage, the demented, senile freak that he is, that even with Joe Biden, America's not to be messed with. That's what they're saying with all this. That's why they're so hyperactive on Ukraine winning this war, which they know is not going to be a possibility, because Ukraine isn't entirely destroyed, continuing to be destroyed. That's why the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has to reach out to business entrepreneurs and investors in Florida, and people like BlackRock and JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, to reach out and invest in Ukraine so they can rebuild their infrastructure into this capitalistic haven. Ukraine's going to be this new capitalistic banker haven. It's going to be a huge investment once we destroy and obliterate your entirety of your country. It is all about business. It's all about asserting U.S. dominance. It's all about hegemony. It has nothing to do with people, nothing to do with security, nothing to do with any of that. That is why these soulless people that are on the news and on television and in the media are petrified the idea that Donald Trump may have a bit of empathy to actually stop this war and caring about the lives and sacrifices that people have made about this war, and rather than focusing on the politics of this, which is what other people like myself feel every time that there's a war going on. I'm more focused on the people that are making the ultimate sacrifice than the politics itself, because I couldn't care less. I don't think anyone else could care less. But when people are dying willy-nilly based on the behests of elites and cultists and globalists and the NATO and the military-industrial complex, based on their behalf, based on their decision for their gains, that's why we need to stop these wars. That's why we need to stop the manufacturing of these wars. Because it's nothing to do with security. In fact, it jeopardizes more of our security. We become more in jeopardy of possibly nuclear war or possible warfare ourselves, and putting ourselves more at risk every time we do these stupid stunts like this. Fighting Russia and Ukraine, or manufacturing a war with China through Taiwan, or continuing to bombard the Middle East, or continuing to bombard Latin America for geopolitical gain. We're trying to extend militarily throughout the world, and we're selling ourselves way too thin. And if you look at history, you look at the Roman Empire, you look at all the ancient civilizations that have expanded militarily to show its dominance, to assert its dominance as as their last, peg in this world, it never goes well. And since the United States is crumbling within, that is what they're doing left. The establishment is doing whatever it takes left to expand itself, to assert its dominance, because they know that the United States is going to go kerplunk the minute more and more countries get away from the US dollar and head towards the Chinese yuan, which is what they're doing. They're doing with the petrodollar, they're doing with Saudi Arabia, they're doing with the ruble, they're doing it with Russia, they're doing it with India, they're doing it with what they're calling the BRICS. These collaboration of countries that are creating their own economic dominance over the West in result to this. So it is not going to be good for us. And that is why Donald Trump, of all people, and why it's so refreshing, is he's saying that this has to stop. Enough of this. There's no sense of sacrificing more and more people knowing that there's no winnable outcome to this. And it's just absolutely amazing to hear it from him, but then also hear the reaction of mainstream media being petrified of the idea of peace breaking out. Because it's terrifying to them. It's terrifying them that they're going to lose their business.